Start screen. All right, now let's see if we got it going. Let's see. Oh, I think we did it. Yep, just popped up on my phone. Oh, I think we got. Mic check. We did. Yep, just popped up on my phone. Oh, I think we got. Mic check. Well, that sounds so bad. Yep, just popped up on my phone. Mic check. Well, that sounds so bad. Yep, just popped up on my phone. Okay. Oh, let's mute this. And make sure we got all the audio straight. Oh, that's why. Because we're picking up two different audios. So let's mute that one. Mic test 1, 2, perfect. Okay. Alright, so let's see. Mic check, can y'all hear me on the phone? Yes. Okay, good. And I think we got the stream going too. So we're going to open up. Give me less than 3 minutes. I just want to get an ink pen and my notebook or a pencil. What am I looking for, Jedi? Just hand me that book. You have an ink pen? You might have. Yeah, around, man. Maybe in my briefcase. What's this? I don't want this. All right, thank you. Okay, you guys are on the phone line? Yes, we are. All right, cool. And for those that are watching via YouTube, yes, we are. All right, cool. Okay. And for those that are watching, all right, good. Okay, I just had to test all that. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and open up with prayer and get Wednesday night Bible studies going. I apologize for being a little late. This was a new Wednesday for me. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and open up with Bible study. With prayer. Sisters, have your heads covered. Brothers, uncover your heads as we open with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. And forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory. Forever. In Jesus' mighty name. Amen. All right, good peoples. Welcome to Israel Church of Jesus Wednesday night Bible study. I'm Brother Jediah. I'll be hosting today. We broadcasting live from where are we? We in Philadelphia, but where we are don't really matter. Broadcasting live. Okay. Do we have any questions and or comments coming from our phone line today? Any biblical questions and or comments?
Yes, Brother Jediah, this is Robin. I have a question. And okay. I think I've asked it online before, but I just want to make sure. I don't know if it was you, maybe I think it's somebody else, but I kind of want to make sure I am understanding. So, I love finding out about Revelation. I love it, but I love other stuff too. But this prophecy. But anyway, so with the 3.5 years of tribulation, okay?
Yes.
The plagues, the 7 plagues, and I know about the trumpet sound, the bowl poured out. My question, within that 3.5 years of tribulation, are the plagues included in that 3.5 years?
Are the plagues included in it? Mm-hmm.
Or is it 3.5 with just with the man of sin doing his thing, and then Jesus do the wrath of the plague?
I understand your question.
Part of it.
I understand your question. It's a good question too. Revelations is gonna be tonight. So I guess the first thing is we need to definitively establish time for 3.5 years. So we could use Revelation 12. And what we're going to probably do to make life easy on us is skim through the whole book of Revelation so that we can have an idea of what's being said and exactly what's being said. And it should probably help us with that. So we're going to start this off at Revelation chapter 12. And the same well, we're gonna start at Revelation 12 and we're gonna use this to find let's start at Revelation 11, then we'll jump over to 12, and we're gonna use this to establish our 3.5 years. And then what we will do next is we will go and begin to look at the seals and the vials of wrath. Now, I think I was in the trumpets. I think I was on a couple of weeks ago, and when Nehemiah and Nate, they kind of covered it. So I'm gonna kind of, so I'm gonna kind of, and I remember, them dealing with it. So I'm gonna kind of fill in whatever gaps and just kind of give maybe 30 minutes. It may take me to just walk through all of it best I can. So we'll start off in Revelation chapter 11. And when we look at Revelation 11, and we'll start at 1, it said, "There was given me a reed like unto a rod. And the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court, which is without the temple, leave out. Measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles. And in the holy city shall they tread underfoot 42 months." So what we got going on right here is John, the person who's seeing this vision, is looking at the temple of God. And God is telling him, look, measure the temple, but leave the courtyard out, the courtyard area of the temple out, because we're going to give that to the Gentile. Now, we can hold our spot here real fast. And let's go to Luke chapter 21. Luke chapter 21. Luke chapter 21. And we're going to pick this up at verse 5. Luke 21 and 5. And it reads, "And as some spake of the temple, how it was adorned with goodly stones and the gifts. He said, as for these things which ye behold, the days will come in which there shall not be left one stone upon another that should not be thrown down. And they asked him, saying, Master, but what shall these things be, and what sign will there be when these things should come to pass? Now, this is the same temple that John was looking at. Is the same one that Jesus was looking at. Two different time periods. Jesus was actually there, whereas John was looking at a vision of it. But at any rate, we're going to kind of skim through it. Let's skip down to verse 8. And he said, take heed that ye be not deceived, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and the time draweth near, go ye not therefore after them. But when ye shall hear wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by. Then said he unto them, nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and great earthquakes shall be in divers places, and famines and pestilence. Fearful sights and great signs shall there be from heaven. But before all these, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. So he's telling them all this is going to happen before the destruction of this temple. Verse 17, and you should be hated of all men for my sake, but there shall not an hair of your head perish, and your patience possess ye your souls. Verse 20, and when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, so this is, now he's referring to 70 AD, know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which be in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. Woe unto them that give child, and them that give suck in those days, for there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon it, this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captives into all nations. So he's talking about the children of Israel. When this happened in 70 AD, they're going to be led away captives into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So that's really why we came here, is to show you that. So the original temple that was there when Jesus was there was destroyed in 70 AD, and he's telling you, hey, Jerusalem will be occupied or will be strong held by the Gentile until their time is up. So when we go back to Revelation 11, what we're looking at is the climax to the downfall of the time of the Gentile, meaning the Gentile gonna rule the world until the Lord come back. And as we get to the end, that same temple that we read about in Luke 21, he says at Revelation 11, there was given me a reed like unto a rod. The angel stood saying, rise and measure the temple of God, and the altar of them which worship therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure not, for it is given into the Gentile. Now the actual temple today where it's sat is where the Dome of the Rock sits. So in Jerusalem. So what the Lord is saying is, I'm going to give them an area right next to it, but it's still going to be where the temple is. It's still going to be on the temple grounds. And then it said he was going to give them this holy city to tread underfoot for 40 and 2 months. So now we see that they're going to have rulership. The Antichrist is going to have rulership in Jerusalem for 3.5 years. And then after that 3.5 years, when you get to verse 15, you see the seventh trumpet sounds, and that's the end of his reign. Now we can look at another place. Let's go to Revelation chapter 12. Revelation chapter 12. So what we're doing right now is we are establishing the 3.5 year period of this great tribulation. Revelation 12. So Revelation 12 does something rather interesting. It introduces the church, and then it introduces the adversary to the church, which is going to be Satan. And then it's going to show you their wars, and it's going to tell you that a place of safety going to be, we're going to see all of that here, and that's where we're going to see the time. So we're going to start this off in verse 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a great crown of 12 stars. And she being with child cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. So this woman that we're reading about is Israel. And it said, and there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon. So verse 1 and 2 is Israel. And the reason we know it's Israel is because it said that it was a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head were a crown of 12 stars. Back in Genesis, we see the same description, except it was 11 stars, because Joseph had a dream, and the stars all represented Israel, but Joseph was an Israelite himself. So in that dream back in Genesis, it was just 11 stars. Joseph would have been the 12th. And this is the representation of Israel, verse 1 and 2. But then we get to verse 3. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns on his head. So now you got Israel, and then now you got the Antichrist, or you got Rome, or you got the Roman, you could even say the Roman Catholic Church. It don't matter. It's all the same player. Verse 4. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. So that is a reference to him taking the third of the angels. This Satan, who is the head of this dragon that we see, this red dragon. And did cast him to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth the man-child, who's to rule all nations with the rod of iron. And her child was caught up to God and to his throne. So that child was Jesus that came through Israel. And Satan was trying to attack Jesus as well. Verse 6. And the woman fled into the wilderness. So this is, part of where your question is. Where she have the place prepared that she should feed her there 1,260 days. And again, that's 3.5 years, 360 times 3 plus the other 180 will give you 1,260 days. And so that's how long we had this wilderness, 3.5 years. And it said the woman fled to a place prepared of God that she should feed her there. And it was basically a place, this wilderness is what a lot of people look at as the rapture. And the rapture is a doctrine, a false doctrine, in which they say you're going to go up to heaven when God put the great tribulation on the earth. The reality is nobody is going to ever go up to heaven. There is no rapture. But what the Lord is going to do is provide a place of safety on the earth so that the children of Israel, or so that those that are in the wilderness won't be affected by the great tribulation. Now, let's go back to Revelation chapter 3 or 5, 6. Let's go. We're going to go to Revelation, but we're going to go to Revelation 6, and I'm going to start reading there. But before we do that, let me help us start the book of Revelations kind of understanding it. So the first chapter in Revelation, the intro chapter, is just us finding out that John, like it said in verse 1, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel to his servant John. And so that's what the book of Revelation is. It's the revelation of Jesus Christ. It's what he's going to do in the end. That's really what we're talking about, right? And so chapter 1 is kind of like, the Lord, being introduced to the Lord. And, like in verse 8, I'm Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. The angels there, talking to him, whatever. So this is chapter 1. Then chapter 2, John has this, it's like he's been instructed to, in the end of chapter 1, at verse 18, he was like, and I am he that liveth and was dead. And behold, I am alive forevermore. Amen. And have the keys of hell and death. Write the things which thou hast seen, and the things which are, and the things that shall be hereafter. The mystery of the 7 stars which you saw in my right hand, and the 7 golden candlesticks. The 7 stars are the angels of 7 churches, and the 7 candlesticks which thou saw are the 7 churches. So he was instructed really to write a message or to write all this stuff to these 7 churches. So in doing so, chapter 2 and 3 is the message to each one of these churches directly. So each one of these churches are going to get a message written to them as well as the rest of the revelations. So Philadelphia, Laodicea, Sardis, all these different churches that was throughout the Mediterranean area is going to receive the vision that John is looking at. So after giving the message from the Lord to the churches, chapter 4 starts. After this I looked and behold, a door was open in heaven. So this is what John is seeing. So like really the first of his visions after he received the message is he looking up in heaven, and ultimately chapter 4 and 5 is who's worthy to open up the seals. If you go to chapter 5, he was like, and I saw in his right hand, verse 1, on him that sat on the throne, a book written within on the backside, sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice who was worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof. All right. So basically chapter 1 is the introduction. Chapter 2 and 3 is like, I guess we could say personalizing the book of Revelation to the 7 churches. And chapter 4 and 5 is the beginning of the vision in which we see the throne and we see 7 seals that need to be opened. And we saw nobody was able to open these seals but the Lamb. Now, we're going to go to the seals. Now, the way this is going to work, chapter 6, is he's going to begin to open the seals. And the first 4 seals is going to introduce the Antichrist. The 5th seal is going to show you what the Lord is doing. And then the 6th seal is going to be the Lord. And then the 7th seal is going to be all the vials of wrath that we call the trumpets. So one of the things that I've been learning in teaching Revelation chapter 6 is we try to place chapter 6 in a chronological order with the Great Tribulation. But that's not what chapter 6 is actually doing. Chapter 6 is not chronologically anything. So if you were to make a timeline, chapter 6 is not included in the timeline. Now, I'll explain as we read. Revelation 6 and 1. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard as it were the noise of thunder, one of the 4 beasts saying, come and see. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. And he opened the 2nd seal, and I heard a 2nd beast say, come and see. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and they should kill one another. And they was giving him a great sword. So, verse 1 was an introduction to a man. It has no time value there. It's just introducing you to the Antichrist. Now, we understand that the Antichrist is the one that's going to be ruling in Jerusalem during the Great Tribulation. But the Antichrist ain't the Antichrist ruling during the Great Tribulation just for 3.5 years. If you go back in Daniel and you begin to investigate, the Antichrist, he gradually brings in peace to the to a world that's beginning to be in chaos. So the Antichrist the Antichrist is working now. All Revelation 6 is doing is introducing us to the fact that there's going to be a man who's going to conquer, and that's going to be conquering. Now, we know how long the Great Tribulation is, and we know that this is going to be the man that's going to usher in quite a bit of the Great Tribulation. But still, as we read in Revelation 6, it's not in any time. It's not giving you a time. Verse 3. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, "Come and see." And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him with him a great sword. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld, and lo, a black horse. And he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, "A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. See thou hurt not the oil and the wine." And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beast of the earth. Now, a beast of the earth. Now, so the first seal is introducing the Antichrist. And seal 2, 3, and 4 are what the Antichrist is going to do. This is what he's going to do. So we can't interject. Now, we might have understanding and know that the Antichrist is going to rule for 3.5 years. But there is no time put here in Revelation chapter 6 for us to say, okay, well, verse 1 starts at January 1st, and then verse 2, or the second seal is 2 months later or 3 months later. Like, no, there's no time. There is no time given here. This is just showing you who is the player in the end, all right? Or who is the player that we're going to be discussing throughout the next 5, 6 chapters. We're going to be discussing either 1 or 2 people, period, throughout the whole book of Revelation. It's either Jesus or the Antichrist. So this is the first opportunity that Revelations is affording us to see the Antichrist. All right, now we're going to go to verse 5. I mean, the fifth seal. You can get you some water or something, then grab your book and take a seat, bro. Thank you. So I'm in verse 9. It says, and when he opened the fifth seal, I saw, please fix that however you can. Bro, you don't know. It took me 30 minutes to figure that out. I'm sorry, my reader just got in. He started a job a couple weeks ago, so he coming off his job, and he coming in putting in some more work. So anyway, back to the book, though. Revelation chapter 6 and verse 9. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain with the word of God. Now, understand something. These are all just visions that we're looking at. This is not real time. For example, there is no souls under the altar at any point ever that's going to make this statement. This is all a vision because the purpose of what's next, or the purpose of the return of Christ, will be shared with us in this chapter as well. So it's like you got the Antichrist, and then you're going to have why is Christ, like what makes him the Antichrist? Why is Christ coming against him? And then we're going to introduce Christ. That's what the seals are doing. Verse 9, seal number 5. When he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, doest thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell in the earth? And white robes were given unto every one of them. And it was said unto them that they should rest for a little season until their fellow servants also, and their brothers that should be killed as they were, should be filled. So the fifth seal is saying, like, look, I know that people have had bloodshed for the word of God. I got that. And we're going to avenge it. And one of the main people that's going to be shedding blood is the person that we just read about in the first 4 sets of, the first seal. And then we already saw that he was going to be killing, he was going to have control of the money, so on and so forth. So now it's saying, well, we're going to avenge their blood. Now we're going to see who's going to do the avenging. Seal number 6. I beheld, and when he had opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell on the earth, even as a fig tree casts her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the earth departed as a scroll and is rolled together. and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And the kings of the earth, great men and rich men, chief captains and mighty men, every bondman and every free man hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who is able to stand? So far, make sure we still on the phone line here. So far, we looked at Revelation 6. Is everything clear so far, sis? Oh.
Yeah, I had it on mute.
No, that's cool. That's cool. I appreciate that. Okay, so far looking at Revelation 6, do you understand that we're not looking at chronological anything? It's not about time in Revelation 6. So far, it's only about introducing who are the players in the end. Do you see that?
Yes.
And their purpose. Because when you look at the fifth seal, you see that the purpose, like when I say their purpose, we can have multiple purposes. But one of the things is we're going to be avenging the blood of the servants that have been killed. That's one of the things that's going to be done when it's all said and done. So all of this are the seals that are in Revelation so far. Now, before we start getting to the trumpets, now we need to do something here. So we're going to go to Revelation chapter 7.
Can you pass me my glasses? It's in the second.
No problem. Why? Because I can't function without you.
Huh?
I can't function without you or something.
No, I gotta read. I can't see.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you showed up. This was working, but you make it work better. All right, Revelation chapter 7. That's where we're going to pick this up at. So now, after we have the seals, and it's like one more thing that we need to solidify before we begin to talk about the events. And these events are, when we get to the trumpets, they are in some type of order, okay? Like some type of chronological order, meaning the seventh trump is the return of the Lord. Like that's the end of it all. So, and then we even have dates inside the trumpets. But we'll get there. But before we get there, what we've done so far is we've introduced the Antichrist with the seals. And we've introduced the return of the Lord with seal number 6. And we've also introduced the fact that the Lord has to avenge the blood. Now, chapter 7, Revelation chapter 7 and 1. Go ahead.
And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth.
So after he saw the seals, then he began to see these angels, and they was holding the earth. And what were they doing?
Nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice.
So you got 4 angels holding back the winds. Then you had another angel who had a seal. And what we're about to find out is the Lord is saying, when they come to the end, I'm going to seal my servants of God so that they don't get affected by the wrath that I'm about to pour out. Now, we're going to see that in a minute. We can equate what's going on here. I use 2 examples. Example number 1, I use the blood of the Lamb of Jesus on the doorpost and how the angel walked by and didn't kill anybody back in Egypt who had blood on their door. Or, in a closer parallel, more accurate, is this seal that we're looking at would be equal to when the Lord sent the plagues through Egypt and how he kept severing Israel, meaning he didn't have, like when he made it dark for 3 days and 3 nights, it wasn't dark where Israel was. So this is what the Lord is doing. The Lord is providing during his wrath that he's going to put on this earth a place, or he's making sure that people are going to make it through. So he's having the angels seal a certain amount of people. So read verse 2.
And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea.
So the angels are going to hurt the earth, but before they can hurt the earth, he like, look, this need to be done. Go ahead.
Saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees. So we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads.
Right. So he said, look, before you start putting any wrath, so the stuff that we read in chapter 6, when it started talking about death following him, all that, the stuff we were going to read about in chapter 8, before we put any wrath on this earth, let's seal, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of God in their foreheads. Now we're going to see how many people get sealed. Go ahead.
And I heard the number of them which were sealed.
Mm-hmm.
And there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel.
Right. Now look, to my understanding, all he just basically saying is he sealed Israel. I mean, this is as we approach the coming of the Lord. So this is like our generation, maybe the generation behind us. He's saying that, hey, I'm going to seal 144,000 people. They not going to get affected by these angels that's going to, bring this wrath on the earth. Let's skip down to verse 8.
Of the tribe of Zebulun were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Joseph were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Benjamin were sealed 12,000.
Go ahead.
After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man can number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands.
Go ahead.
And cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our God which sitteth upon the throne and unto the Lamb.
Go ahead.
And all the angels stood round about the throne, and about the elders and the four beasts.
Skip down to 13.
And one of the elders answered, saying unto me, What are these which are arrayed in white robes?
Uh-huh.
And whence came they?
Go ahead.
And I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest. And he said to me, These are they which came out of the great tribulation, and have washed their robes, and made them white in the blood of the Lamb.
Okay, so now what we got here in chapter 7 is we're seeing that you got 144,000 of Israel, plus you got all a great multitude that's going to make it out of the great tribulation. Now, we understand that the great tribulation is what the Antichrist is going to begin to kick off, okay? So we already read about it, that we already read that the Antichrist is going to do something, but we also read that the Lord is going to seal the servants of his God before he start doing stuff. And then we also see it ain't just the servants of God that's going to make it to the very end, but it's going to be a mixed multitude. Okay, so that's what Revelation chapter 7 is. Now let's jump down to chapter 8.
And when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour.
Uh-huh.
And I saw the 7 angels which stood before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets.
Go ahead.
And another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense.
All right, that's good. Let's skip down to verse 6.
And the 7 angels which had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound.
Yes.
The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth, and the third part of trees were burnt up, and all green grass were burnt up.
Right. So now we said we're looking at the trumpets, and we know that these events take place during the Great Tribulation period. So we could begin to say that the trumpets could fit, if we put it on a time map of time of history, we could say that it would fit, the trumpets would fit inside, or chapter 8 would fit inside the Great Tribulation. Chapter 6 doesn't go on the map, because chapter 6 is not, it's just an introduction of a person. That person we could place on the map, or these players we could place on the map, but again, on a map of time. But again, when we look at these trumpets, we're going to see that time is going to be given to us. In addition, when you look at what the Antichrist is doing, so like going back to chapter 6 and you look at verse 4, he said he took peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another with a great sword. Or like when you look at him controlling the money in verse 6, or when you look at, death and hell follow with him, and power was given him over the fourth part of the earth to kill with the sword and with hunger and with death. All this is encompassed around the Great Tribulation period. Okay, now of what he's going to do. So the tribulations, though, we're going to start it with the trumpets. The 7 angels which had 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth. And the third part of the earth was burnt up, and all the green grass. Verse 8.
And the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood. And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died.
Now remember, we didn't already seal the servants of God in they forehead, so they not a part of that third part of the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life and died. They're not a part of that because they sealed right now. Verse 10.
And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of water. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood. And many men died of the waters because they were made bitter.
Go ahead.
And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so as the third part of them were darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise.
Go ahead.
And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of the heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth by reason of other voices of the trumpet of the 3 angels which are yet to sound.
So he's saying woe because from this point on, it's only getting rougher. Go ahead.
Chapter 9. And the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit.
Go ahead.
And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth.
So right now, we got a battle that's about to take place. That's what this 5th trumpet is. Basically, the East is about to come and meet up with the West, and they plan on going to war, and you got battleships and things of that nature taking place. But go ahead, keep reading.
And unto them were given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing.
So even though this all coming from God, but these ain't God planes. These is men that's about to fight. This is what the 5th trumpet is. And this all takes place inside the Great Tribulation. Go ahead.
Neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads.
So he said, what verse are you at?
I just finished 4.
So he said, and it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those which have not, because we've already sealed them in chapter 7. So them the only ones that don't get hurt in all of this. But go ahead, keep reading, verse 5.
And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months.
So this 5 months that they're going to be tormented sits inside the 3.5 years of the Great Tribulation. All these trumpets do. Well, all of them except for really the 7th trump. Because the 7th trump, we'll see what that is in a minute. Go ahead.
And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion, when he striketh a man. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. All the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads were as it were crowns like gold.
Now this 2,000 years ago, planes only been in existence for about 120, 130 years or so. So John don't know what he looking at. He don't know how to describe helicopters or nothing like this. So he's seeing what he's describing it the best to his abilities, but this is what he's seeing. He's seeing warplanes and stuff of that nature. Go ahead.
And their faces was as the faces of men. And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates as it were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails.
Keep reading.
And their power was to hurt men 5 months. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit.
And their
His name.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Go ahead. Keep reading. Where we at?
Middle of 11.
Mm-hmm.
Whose name in the Hebrew tongue is.
No, start 11 over, please.
And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon.
And just on the way of learning something, the Bible does that. This show you a few things with that verse because, you know, like how, for example, Jesus got many names on out of many different tongues. And people sometimes look at that strange because they like, well, a name is a name. But then you see here they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew was one thing and his name in the Greek was another. You know, it's just something to look at. But go ahead, keep reading.
One woe is past, and behold, there came two woes more hereafter.
Now, as we learned a couple of weeks ago, each one of these trumpets has a vial of wrath that coincides with it. Okay? So this is all going on during the Great Tribulation. Let's pick it up at verse 13.
And the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar which is before God, saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates.
Right.
And the four angels were loosened, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay the third part of men.
Right. So we still inside this Great Tribulation time period. We still inside these 3.5 years. But again, just going back to the nature of the question, when you look at Revelation 6, we like to place it somewhere like, oh, this starts the Great Tribulation. No, it's not starting anything. It's just introducing who, what, when, where. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of doing that. And then once we get to the trumpets, which has a vial of wrath behind it, now we're entering into the Great Tribulation to be leading us all the way to the return of the Lord. What verse are we at?
16.
All right, go ahead, keep reading.
And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them.
And you can pick this up even in Joel. But go ahead.
And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire, and of jacinth and brimstone. And the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. By these three was the third part of men killed, by the fire, and by the smoke, and by the brimstone, was issued out of their mouths.
Go ahead.
For their power is in their mouth, and in their tails. For their tails was like unto serpents, and had heads, and with them they do hurt. And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils, and idols, of gold, and silver, and brass, and stone, and of wood, which neither can see, nor hear, nor walk. Neither repented they of their murderers, nor of their sorcerers, or scorners,
sorcery.
Oh yeah, sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts.
All right, that's good. That's good. Now, let's skip over to chapter 11, verse 15.
And the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven, saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord, and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever.
Okay, now, right prior to that, we just had those two witnesses resurrect. But the seventh trumpet is the same thing as the seventh vial of wrath. Let's go to Revelation chapter 16. And we're going to start it at 16 and verse 12. And we're going to look at the sixth vial of wrath, which was equal to the sixth trumpet. Now, this is still all in each vial. Like at Revelation 16:1, he was like, and I heard a great voice out of the temple saying to the seven angels, go your way and pour out the vials of wrath of God upon the earth. And the first went and poured out his vial of wrath, and therefore it fell a noisome and grievous sore upon men, which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worship his image. So you had each one of these vials of wrath was being poured out. They're equal to those trumpets. So we just going to look at number 5 and number 6. So go ahead and pick it up at verse 10.
And the fifth angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast, and his kingdom was full of darkness, and they gnawed their tongues for pain, and blasphemed the God of heaven because of their pains and their sores.
Go ahead, verse 12.
And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the river thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared.
Now, if you remember when we looked at the sixth trump, it said, and the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar which is before the Lord, saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the four angels were loosed, and they were prepared for an hour, and a day, and a month, and a year, to slay a third part of men. But then now he was reading, and it says in verse 12 in chapter 16, and the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the waters thereof were dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. And I saw three unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. That they are the spirits of devils working miracles. So the sixth vial around, we just really all we looking at is like this, and when we look at it in chapter 16, these are the leaders of, the one of the armies that came, to meet up at Euphrates, at the Euphrates. Keep reading, verse 14.
For they are the spirits of devils, working miracles, which go forth into the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of God Almighty. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that washeth, and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked, and they see his shame. And he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon.
Right.
And the seventh angel poured out his vial into the air.
So now we get the seventh angel, which is going to run with the seventh trump. And watch what happens. Go ahead.
And there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven from the throne, saying, It is done.
Yeah.
And there were voices, and thunders, and lightnings, and there were great earthquakes, such as was not since men were upon the earth. So mighty an earthquake.
Now, when we read about what's going to really happen, it say like, in Zechariah 14, it say that the Lord gonna step foot on Mount Zion, and it's gonna flatten out like a plain. So we start talking about this great earthquake. He's being literal, and like the whole world gonna be different after the Lord return. But keep reading.
And the great city was divided into three parts, and the cities of the nations fell, and great Babylon came in remembrance before God, to give unto her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath.
All right, that's good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to Revelation chapter 6 and kind of recap all the chapters. So, Revelation 1 was like the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him. So it's like an intro to the book. Revelation chapter 2 and 3 is it's addressed to each church, 7 churches. Then Revelation chapter 4 and 5, we looking at heaven, and it's like, well, who worthy to open up the book? Oh, who gonna talk about what's about to be talked about? Like, cause we like Revelation 5 and 6, it's just talking about heaven. It ain't talking about no events on earth really. Then we get to Revelation 6, and now it's introducing it's the first time we hear about the Antichrist in Revelation. Even though it's not called that, it's called he's just somebody who had a bow, went out to conquer and then conquer. And then we also see that the Lord gonna come back in Revelation chapter 6. We see the Lord, behold, verse 12. He opened the sixth seal, and it was a great earthquake. So that's the two players that we're gonna discuss throughout the whole book. Then, before we start doing anything, we're gonna seal the servants of God, make sure that everybody's straight, the place of safety, all of that. That's Revelation chapter 7. Then chapter 8 and 9 begins the trumpets, in which he's telling us what wrath he gonna put on the earth. Now, chapter 10, you can just read that on your own. I mean, he's telling you to read the book. It's not really like you got to read that. It's not really like it's not really eventful like that. You know what I'm saying? You have to just read it. 10 verses, 11 verses. But they read the book there. Then chapter 11 is recapping. Like chapter 11 is going back to the Antichrist, because it's showing you like, hey, You're going to measure out this land. You're going to give this to the Antichrist for 3.5 years. They're going to rule over it. I'm going to send 2 witnesses. That's where that come up. They're going to be the counter, like a Moses and Aaron. They're going to be the counter to this Antichrist. Then, bang, we get to the 7th trump. Because that's what's going to happen with them 2 witnesses. They're going to die, 7th trump. Then Revelation chapter 12. Again, you're being introduced to Israel. You're being introduced to Satan. It talks about the war in heaven. And it talks about the war that's going to take place on earth, where Satan is trying to come after the people. That's what Revelation chapter 12 is. Then Revelation chapter 13 is about the Antichrist, and like where he come from. Rome, the beast, the false prophet. That's what Revelation 13, like, you know, where you could take Revelation 13 and it brings us, like, you know, you're gonna need Daniel to really understand it. So it's like it connects the gap between Daniel and Revelation. Chapter 13 does. Chapter 14 is about when the Lord gets to the kingdom. Chapter 15 is like they gonna prepare for the the 7 last plagues, which is the trumpets. It's the same thing with the vials of wrath in chapter 16. Then when you get to chapter 17, it's talking about Babylon and who they are again and how they're going to be destroyed, or that they are going to be destroyed. Same thing as 18. And then 19 and 20 is talking about the return of the Lord and what's going to happen after he returns. So anyway, with all that being said, hopefully that I'm going to open it back up to you to see if I missed your question in any kind of way. Or, because sometimes what happens with me is I do like an overkill. Like, I hear a question and be like, let me just break all this down, and in that way your question can get answered. But sometimes I could miss the question too. So I'm going to go back to the phone line to see if I was able to help answer your question.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's what I like about your teaching. I love your overkill. I like your overkill because it just brings more to it, brings more light to it. So to answer your question, yes, you answer my question about the wrath of God. They are part of the tribulation.
Okay.
And that's what I was, had asked, a couple of weeks ago, and that's what I was thinking. But I just need a little more better understanding, and so and you actually brought it in. Now, I do have a question about the seals. Do you think the seals have been open now, or is that later?
Well, when you look at the seals,
I'm saying all of them,
but when you look at the seals and you say, are they open? So let's go back to Revelation chapter 6. And let's start at verse 1.
And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals.
So yeah, all the seals are open. But I know what you really mean. Have they taken place yet? That's probably, yeah. That's what I knew that's what you were asking, but it's kind of like I can't say they're not open when I'm about to read they open. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to do that to the book. So, but he's like, and I heard as it were a noise of thunder, one of the 4 beasts saying, come and see. And I saw and behold a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. So, when we ask, is that seal open? Or better yet, has that started yet? The reality is, absolutely. But this started when you begin to understand who this is, the Pope. And the Pope been going forth conquering and to conquer. Like, this is where you get your Spanish Inquisitions. Like, he's been doing it. So the first seal, we can say, because it's, again, the chapter is not about chronological, like, it's not chronological. It has nothing to do with time. It's just an introduction. And the Antichrist, he been the Antichrist. He been the Antichrist since over 1,000 years ago. And he been conquering since over 1,000 years ago. So seal number one, definitely. Then it says, and when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, "Come and see." And there went out another horse that, and they said, power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that he should kill one another that was given it to him to the sword. Now, can we say that we are into the second seal? Not. I wouldn't say so, because um, no, this Antichrist hasn't necessarily taken peace from the earth yet, to the degree that we gonna take it to in the last days. Same as the third seal when they say he got control of the money. Like, I wouldn't say that this seal has opened. Or when we say open, that the events that this seal, or the power that this seal is given to the conqueror, hasn't been given to him yet. Then you look at number four, the fourth seal, where it say death and hell followed him, and power was given unto him to hurt the fourth part of the earth. Again, these numbers, seal number 2, 3, and 4, which is the power and the abilities that the conqueror in the first seal have. These seals, these things haven't been given to him to a full capacity yet. Now, when you look at the fifth seal of what he saw, he's at, I mean, the seal is open, and it's not an event that's going to ever take place, because all he's doing is seeing people that's been dead saying, how long is it going to be before you avenge our blood? So the reality is the fifth seal is only answering the question. So when you read the fifth seal, start at verse 9.
And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them which were slain for the word of God.
See, that's not something that, like, he saw the souls of them. This is a vision. Like, this is nothing that's ever going to actually take place. Keep reading.
And for the testimony which they held.
Uh-huh.
And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth?
So the fifth seal is about the question and answer. So, like, when you look at seal number 5, that's a Q&A. How long, O Lord, holy and true, do you not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? That's what the rest of the book is about, though. The rest of the book of Revelation is about the Lord avenging the blood of Israel, or the ones that's been dwelling on the earth, the servants of God. Verse 11.
And white robes were given unto every one of them, and it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season.
And here go the answer. It's a little season. How long? A little season. Until the fellow servants and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. So, the fifth seal is not even something that it's not something that it's not some start time. It's not a start time to it. And then the sixth seal, again, is, the heavens rolling back like a scroll. We ain't seen that. So that hasn't happened yet. So, again, when you see, one of the things we got to do when we look at the seals is we got to stop making the seals a time frame. That's not what the seals are doing. The seals are showing you who, what, when, where, and how. But it's not giving you dates to anything. It's not to be placed on a time table or a chart or something. It's not to be that. It's just to tell you, hey, you got the Antichrist. Here go his power. You got Jesus, he gonna come back, and what he gonna come back and do? He gonna come back to avenge this blood. That's really what the seals are about. And then when you get to the seventh seal, now we can start talking about, all right, now we can put the time on it. So, like, this stuff gonna take place during the Great Tribulation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And that's just a mistake that I've done it. So I'm not trying to, anyway, many of us have done it, but as you study it more and you begin to understand better, the seals aren't chronological in any capacity. It's not even about time with that. Mm-hmm.
Right. And the more I read Revelations, more stuff may stick out, but then the more questions I have about it, because I noticed something, I'm like, wait a minute, so that's why I kind of ask a lot of questions about Revelation, because it's like I'm learning it, but then once I learn something new, I feel like, okay, this is something I need to get information on. Okay. So that's why I like read. But I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
It's quite the pleasure. All right, so we're going. Let me check this YouTube. See if we got any questions here real quick. Are we still live? Yeah, I guess so.
And they had a king over them. Which
Are we still live? Here we go. Yeah, I guess so. All right, so let me see. Peace for okay. So we do have a question here on Hebrew Harv. Peace to you, bro. It says, "Peace, family. I need understanding on Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 16, in all points as he came. What does Solomon mean by this?" Oh, Lord. I don't know. Sometimes I don't be knowing what Solomon means. Solomon, wisest man to ever live. So, and that's who wrote the book of Ecclesiastes, Proverbs, and Song of Solomon. And his question is coming from Ecclesiastes chapter 5 and verse 16. That was you before you got here?
Yeah, I was.
Oh, that's dope. Okay, gotcha. You just looking at how bad everything was?
Yeah, I was like, yo, it's kind of staticky.
Oh, because I had the wrong mic?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I know because you had a piece of tape on it. Ecclesiastes chapter 5 and let's see. Where do we want to start this at? Let's start at verse 13 maybe. Yep, go ahead.
There is a sore evil which I have seen under the sun, namely riches kept for the owners thereof to their hurt.
Yes.
But those riches perish by evil travail.
Uh-huh.
And he begat a son.
Yeah.
And there is nothing in his hand.
Go ahead.
As he came forth of his mother's womb, naked shall he return to go as he came, and shall take nothing of his labor, which he may carry away in his hand.
Uh-huh.
And this also is a sore evil, that in all points as he came, so shall he go.
Uh-huh.
And what profit hath he that have labored for the wind?
Oh, I get it. In all points as he came, what does... Okay, I like that. So... I'm gonna answer that, and that's a great question. It's an easy answer. We're gonna go back up though and start at verse 1 and just get some more. You're gonna get some more out this Ecclesiastes because the answer gonna be short and sweet. So go ahead and pick it up at verse 1.
Keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of God, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not they do evil. Be not rash with thy mouth, and let not thine heart be hasty to utter anything before God. For God is in heaven, and thou upon earth. Therefore let thy words be few. For a dream cometh through the multitude of business, and a fool's voice is known by a multitude of words.
Yeah, so don't put so much stock into your dreams, everybody. They come through a multitude of business. Now, you know, there are times when you wake up and you have to ask God, what the heck was you trying to show me? And you can do that all the time, anytime. But sometimes sometimes dreams come because it's what's on your mind. I know I be dreaming sometimes, especially on a Friday night or, and not just Friday, but I be dreaming sometimes. And what happened is I might be listening to a lesson, and then when the lesson seems to go off, or when the lessons go off, all of a sudden, here come one of these false prophets coming on behind us. And so in my dream, I literally be arguing with false prophets. It's the weirdest thing. So, dreams are an interesting state of affairs because we do see that God has talked to men in dreams. But again, make sure you get your understanding on your dream and your interpretation from the Lord, and don't be going to nobody thinking that they can tell you what it means and they ain't got the Spirit of God with them. But anyway, verse 4.
When thou vowest a vow unto God, defer not to pay it.
Yeah.
For he have no pleasure in fools. Pay that which thou hast vowed. Better is it that thou shouldest not vow than that thou should vow and not pay.
So I'll give you an example of what's going on there. Like me, I made a vow before you was born, son. I made a vow maybe over 20 years now, or about 20 years, a little more than 20 years ago, about 20 years now, that I only drink on the feast days. So, I don't drink any alcohol, wine, beer. Now, so like after like on a Sunday, Monday, whenever, just a regular day during the week. If somebody else is drinking, they're not sinning. But if I take a drink with them, I'm sinning. Because I made this vow to the Lord that I'm only going to drink during the feast week. Make sure I put that out there just in case somebody catch me drinking during the feast week, and they like, this ain't the feast. I get the whole week. I don't even get my birthday. I wish I would have included that. That would have been cool. But nah, I just get the feast week. And again, I made that vow, and I've been sticking to it. I praise the Lord that He gave me that will and that desire. But so He said, when thou vowest a vow unto God, defer not to pay it, for He have no pleasure in fools. Pay that which thou hast vowed. Better it is that thou shouldest not vow than that thou shouldest vow and not pay. So I tell people often, man, don't make no vows. Just do what you're gonna do. Like if you don't want to, somebody want to say, well, I don't want to cut my hair for 6 months. Don't make no vow. Just don't cut it, because when you make a vow, now you're required. It is law for you to do so, and you didn't have to be. That's why He say, verse 6.
Suffer not thy mouth to cause thy flesh to sin. Neither say thou before the angel that it was an error. Wherefore should God be angry at thy voice and destroy the work of thy hands?
All right, don't be trying to go back on your vows and then be like, well, I have made a mistake. People be doing that. I'm going to tell you one of the biggest arenas where I've seen people do this lately. Marriage. I done seen people lie down together and they like, oh, yeah, okay. So we're going to do what we're supposed to do. We're going to get married. We're going to be husband and wife. And then they renege off of that. Like, that's not what you want to be doing. That's just not a good one. But I've been seeing that a lot lately. Verse 7, go ahead.
For in the multitude of dreams and many words there are also diverse vanities. But fear thou God.
Right. So he's saying in dreams and words. But keep reading.
If thou seest the oppression of the poor, and violent perverting of judgment and justice in a province, marvel not at the matter.
You know what a province is? Like in the land.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he says, if you see oppression of the poor and violence perverting the judgment and justice in the province, don't marvel at it. Go ahead.
For he that is higher than the highest regardeth, and there be higher than they.
Right. Like everybody know. Like it's like even God know. Keep reading.
Moreover, the profit of the earth is for all.
Then he say, and really, the whole earth, like that's kind of getting into like human rights. You know what I'm saying? And like the profit of the earth is for all. Go ahead.
The king himself is served by the field.
Yep. The same thing that served the king served the lowest of the totem pole. Go ahead.
He that loveth silver shall not be satisfied with silver.
So now he said, and with men, like if you love silver, you're going to be looking for it. You're going to find 2 pieces. You're going to need 4. And you find 4, you're going to need 8. Like he said, you ain't going to never be satisfied with what you got. Go ahead.
Nor he that loveth abundance with increase. This is also vanity.
Uh-huh.
When goods increase, they're increased to eat them.
Man, like when you get more food, then all of a sudden more people. Go ahead.
And what good is there to the owners thereof, saving the beholding of them with their eyes?
Uh-huh.
The sheep of a laboring
The what?
The sleep of a laboring man is sweet,
Uh-huh.
whether he eat little or much.
Yep.
But the abundance of the rich will not suffer him to sleep.
Right. Somebody will get out there and work, whether he got a lot or whether he barely get nothing. When he gets some sleep, it's gonna be cool. He ain't gonna, he ain't gonna have no issue. His issue is the same issue all the time. Ain't no real issue, right? He gonna get back out there and do it again. Go work, come back, go to sleep. He say, but the rich, oh man, they don't never get to sleep because they got all kind of problems. That's what he telling. This is what Solomon teaching us. Go ahead, verse 13.
There is a sore evil which I have seen under the sun, namely, riches kept for the owners thereof to their hurt.
Uh-huh.
But those riches perish by evil travail, and he begetteth a son, and there is nothing in his hand.
Uh-huh.
As he came forth of his mother's womb, naked shall we return.
So like we was already talking about, like really your wealth don't it's not gonna satisfy you, you know what I'm saying? And it's like at the end of the day, could y'all keep it down in there, please? At the end of the day, the whole earth is gonna feed everybody. Like nobody's getting food from Mars or nothing. It's all coming from the earth. The same fish, the same tuna I eat is the same tuna that who the president? Biden? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we eating the same fish. I mean, yeah, something like that. So anyway, that's what he was telling them prior. So then he says, so now there's a sore evil which I seen under the sun. Namely, riches kept for their owners till they hurt. Like riches hurting the owner more than it's helping them. And those riches perish by evil travail, however they go. He ain't gonna have it at the end of the day, even if he die. He gonna beget a son, Ain't gonna be nothing in his hand. As he came forth of his mother's womb. So he's saying, like, period, like, to the rich. How you came from your mother's womb naked, that's how you go. You can't take none of these riches with you. Read 15.
As he came forth of his mother's womb, naked shall he return to go as he came, and shall take nothing of his labor, which he may carry away in his hand.
Uh-huh.
And this also is a sore evil,
right?
That in all points as he came, so shall he go.
When he's saying all points as he came, like basically saying for however he lived his life, in all points, how he got here, it don't matter. He like in all points as he came, he definitely leaving here. Go ahead.
And what profit hath he that have labored for the wind?
Yeah, like basically at the end of the day, you walking out of here with nothing. So what did you profit? So like, cause it ain't like you can work as hard as ever, and you can get like Michael Jackson, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Michael Jackson died at about 50. Worked hard, worked himself to death, and he worked till death. And what he got now? Nothing. Mm-hmm. And when he resurrect, what he gonna have? Nothing. Then you know what's crazy about Mike? Them ain't even his kids. You done left that to somebody else's kids. I don't care what you tell me. Them ain't my kids. I love Mike, but them ain't your kids. But he can't say nothing about it now. And that's really what this chapter telling you. This is what this whole piece is telling you. So when you look at it, there's a sore evil, which I have seen under the sun. Riches are kept for the owner thereof till they hurt. But those riches perish by evil travail, and he begetteth a son, and there is nothing in his hand. As he came forth of his mother's womb naked, shall he return to go as he came, and shall take nothing of his labor, which he may carry away in his hand. And this also is a sore evil, that in all points as he came, so shall he go. And what profit hath he that he have labored for the wind? Verse 17.
All his days also he eateth in darkness, and he hath much sorrow and wrath with his sickness.
Go ahead.
Behold that which I have seen. It is good and comely for one to eat and to drink, and to enjoy the good of all his labor.
So he said, behold, I see it's good for you to enjoy your labor. Go ahead.
That he taketh under the sun all the days of his life, which God giveth him, for it is his portion.
Uh-huh.
Every man also to whom God have given riches and wealth, and have given him power to eat thereof, and to take his portion, and to rejoice in his labor, this is the gift of God.
Yep.
For he shall not much remember the days of his life, because God answereth him in the joy of his heart.
Yeah. So hopefully, brother, that helped answer when you look at when you look at the question came from verse 16 when it says that in all points as he came. It's just saying like every way possible, like how he got here, like man, like it doesn't matter. You're not going to be able to take anything with you. That's really what he's getting at with that piece. So hopefully you got some understanding. You're not going to be able to take anything with you. That's really what he's getting at. All right, I don't see any more questions on the phone. I mean on the YouTube. But if you guys have questions,
brother, Shy, there's one more question.
Oh yeah, I do see that now.
One more question.
Okay, yeah, I see that one now. Up in I think that's brother Jacob. What J Elijah 777, that one? Yeah. So it says, peace, brother. Is there any biblical proof that Abraham started monotheism? Abraham didn't start monotheism. I'll show you this. No, to answer your question, like monotheism is the worship of one God. Abraham didn't start that, so I don't know how it could be proof that he started it. I will say that our salvation is through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but let's go to Genesis real quick, chapter 4. Genesis chapter 4 and read verse 25 and 26.
And Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son, and called his name Seth. For God said, she hath appointed me another seed instead of Abel, who Cain slew.
Right.
And to Seth, to him also was born a son, and he called his name Enos.
Right.
Then began men to call upon the name of the Lord.
So like when we look at Seth, like it's telling you like, you know, him and his generation, they begin to call on the name of the Lord. Like it's only one God. You know what I'm saying? Like it tell you in Ephesians, one Lord, one faith, one baptism. But monotheism didn't start with Abraham. Like Noah was monotheistic, you know, Enoch. I mean, so no, I don't. Now I don't know if you're questioning. Like it doesn't matter. Peace, bro. Is there any biblical proof that Abraham started monotheism? No, Abraham didn't start monotheism. Monotheism started with Adam. I mean, when you really think about it, it was just Adam and Eve and God and Satan, and you had to choose, and there was no other gods that you were going to have. By law, you know, Moses gave the law and it said, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." So that could be an establishment of monotheism in a polytheistic world, but the world didn't start off polytheistic, and neither did the Bible. So yeah, so hopefully I don't know. Hopefully that kind of answer your question a little bit. And if you need more clarity or if it's something more direct that you're looking for, you can just type it in the comments, and Lord willing, I'll see it and I'll try to address it. I'm going back to the phone line. Do we have any other questions and or comments on the phone line?
Hey, Brother Jedi, this is Robin again. I was trying to, I still want to go back to Revelation, but I was, letting other people ask questions.
No problem.
So just one thing. So out of Luke 21.
Yes.
24.
Uh-huh.
When it talks about Jerusalem will be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles is fulfilled. Well,
yes.
I understand what it means by until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. So my question, so the people that's over there in the land now, are they, as far as controlling Jerusalem, are they Gentiles or they're a combination of Gentiles and Edom? Because I hear Edom is over there, but I'm just reading what the book is saying.
Good question. So before I answer that, just so we know, it says the nation fall by the edge of the sword and should be led away captive into the nations, and Jerusalem should be trodden down of the Gentiles. So that started in 70 A.D. So over the last 2,000 years, because we're almost 2,000 years from 70 A.D. And then it says until the time of the Gentile be fulfilled. So this actual chapter take you from 70 A.D. to the coming of the Lord, right? And the Gentile has run Jerusalem since then. So I'm gonna give you a brief history of Jerusalem so we can kind of get an idea. And I'm gonna try to use as many things that we can commonly relate to see it. So during the time that Jesus was here, Rome ruled Jerusalem anyway, but we still was in the land. But once 70 AD comes about, Rome is now officially in the hands, Jerusalem is officially in the hands of the Romans. Jerusalem stays in the hands of the Romans, and the Romans have control of Jerusalem pretty much till the Muslims move in the 600 time period when when Muhammad came around. For the next, from 6, 7, 800 to about 1200 AD, so for about the next 400 years, there's a fight for Jerusalem between the Christians and the Muslims. But when we say it's a fight for Jerusalem between the Christians and the Christians are Gentiles. The Muslims are Arabic. Okay? Then, so now after 1200, I think that puts us in like maybe the Ottoman Empire time period. So really, basically, the Jerusalem is under the power, pretty much of the Muslims for maybe the next couple hundred years. But we're going to clarify the scripture and what we're saying. So then, 1900s, before World War One, the so-called Jews and the Zionist movement. Zionism is the Jewish nation. So like they Jews, like they birth, but they nation is a religious base, and it's called Zionism. So in the early 1900s, the Edomites coming back to the land, but they don't get to come back to the land by they will and by their power and by their force. It's by the Gentile. The Gentile is saying that they can go back to the land. Because at this point, early 1900s, World War I, World War II, when you start talking world war, that means the players of the world are at war. The Arabs ain't even there. The Gentile rules Africa. The Gentile rules Asia. The Gentile rules Europe. The Gentiles rule South and North America as well as the Middle East. And even though the Arabs are there and they're a strong force, the Gentile rule the world. The Arabs have to ally with either the Americans or the Russians for them to have any success on this planet. So although they might be Muslim and they might be a wild man as it was predicted in the Bible, they don't run they don't run the planet. Trust me, they don't run the planet. And they don't run that land either. The Edomites are there because because they have the backing of America. If them Arabs tried to, and they had a constant war over there in Jerusalem and Jordan and Syria and all that, because the Muslims trying to fight for the land, just like the Edomites are. But at the end of the day, they're backed by somebody else. They're not the power at all. So hopefully that can kind of give you a different way of looking at it and understanding that, the Gentile, and they should fall by the edge of the sword, and they should be led away captives into all nations, and Jerusalem should be trodden down of the Gentile until the time of the Gentile be fulfilled. Like the Gentile, they time it's been the last 2,000 years. Prior to them having a time, Egypt had a time. Babylon had a time with Hammurabi and them back then, Nimrod, all that. Israel had a time. But right now, it's the time of the Gentile. So even though it might be Edomites that's over there, but they can't, America is, Israeli, they say the Israelis got one of the best militaries on the planet, but they American trained. They have American issued ammunition. They have American issued tanks. And on the counter, the Iraq and Iran and Afghanistan, all these other little nations that's fighting against America on the side of Islam or on the side of Islam, they be getting they military weapons from China and from Russia. So it's like the reality is what we see is a prelude to what the end gonna be, where it's gonna end up just being Russia and Europe going head up, and all these other people just pawns in it. America's a pawn, the Arab nations are a pawn. I do want to show one thing though in the book of Daniel, and then I'm gonna go back to the phone and hopefully I help clear that up a little bit. We're gonna go back to we're gonna go to Daniel chapter 11. Daniel chapter 11. And we about to look at the Antichrist and what he gonna do, right? So let's pick it up at verse 35 just because it's easy to start there, but we gonna get to where we're going though. Go ahead, verse 35.
And some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them, and to purge, and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed.
Right, so this is like during the Great Tribulation. Some of us gonna still be getting purged or whatever. Verse 36.
And the king shall do according to his will.
So this the Antichrist. He gonna do according to his will. Go ahead.
And he shall exalt himself, and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the gods of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished.
Uh-huh.
For that is determined shall be done.
Go ahead.
Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all.
So this the Antichrist, and he different. But go ahead.
But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a God whom his fathers knew not.
Like we read earlier today, like he gonna get his power from Satan. Go ahead.
Shall he honor with gold and silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things.
Keep reading.
Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with the strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory. And he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain.
All right, now verse 40.
And at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him.
So as now we talking about Rome. So he gonna get pushed from the king of the south. The king of the south to Rome is actually Arab nations, because northern Africa is Islamic. Go ahead, keep reading.
And the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind.
Right, and that's gonna be Russia. Russia gonna come against him. Go ahead.
With chariots and with horsemen and with many ships, and he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over.
Go ahead.
He shall enter also into the glorious land.
So this still talking about the Antichrist. So he gonna enter into the glorious land. Go ahead.
And many countries shall be overthrown.
And he gonna overthrow many countries. But watch which ones escape. Go ahead.
But these shall escape out of his hand. Even Edom.
Now Edom sits south. Hey, y'all gotta be quiet in there, please. Edom sits south of Jerusalem. So the Antichrist is gonna get to Jerusalem. But south of Jerusalem is Edom. Go ahead.
And Moab.
And Moab sits south of Jerusalem, southeast of Jerusalem. Go ahead.
And the chief of the children of Ammon.
All that do. Go ahead.
He shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape.
So we're going to leave Rome in the Mediterranean, and we're going to fight against North Africa. That's the people from the south. And Egypt not going to escape. So that means like the Antichrist is going to kick Egypt butt. So they're going to beat up the Arabs in North Africa. That's what we're getting at. Go ahead.
But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt. And the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps.
Now, and he's telling you Ethiopia going to be at his steps. So basically, when you read that and you put it on a map, the Antichrist ends up ruling Africa, and he ended up getting into Jerusalem. But once he gets into Jerusalem, his enemies sit on the other side. So everything east of Jerusalem is going to be a problem for him. Say Ethiopia going to be at his foot. That's actually south. Ethiopia is far south of Jerusalem, but it's a part of that African continent. And, it's a little straight, like a little body of water between, like, the Middle East and Ethiopia. You know what I mean? But still in all, he going to get all of Africa, and he going to get Jerusalem when it's all said and done. But the Arab is still going to be there right at his doorstep, because that's what, like, even when we read and it said the great river Euphrates, that's where Babylon is. Like, so we meeting up to like over there, like the Middle East is that central area where the East gonna meet the West, but it's still gonna be all Gentiles, and the Arab, his ally, is God's army, or Russia and China. It's called God's army in Joel, because the Satan's army is the Antichrist and the Pope in Europe and America and all that. So at the end of the day, long story short, the Gentile run it all. Even though the Jews might be over there and the Arabs might be over there, the Gentiles run it all. So hopefully that kind of helped clear that up a little bit.
Yes, it does. And the reason why I guess I was having a little confusion, because like I know at one time before the Jewish people went back to land, Britain had ownership of it or control of it.
Yes.
And I know about like the Balfour Declaration. That was how they actually got over there to be actually the citizens over there.
Right, but see how, but notice how, and for lack of a better word, white folks' declaration, meaning like all these treaties and stuff. Like, it's not like for example, ain't nobody recognizing no treaty between Zimbabwe and Ethiopia. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't nobody care. Like, y'all, who stands? Y'all can honor it, but the world could care less because the world gonna go by like the Treaty of Rome. Who did that? That was done. You know, that was done by Europeans or the Versailles. You know, all the like anytime like even the what's that? The 7 Day War. I think that's the name of the war where they was fighting over there. Like even that's 6 Day. Thank you. Even that is back behind, like, them Arabs didn't make no guns. You know what I mean? Like, the Europeans made the guns. They supplied the guns. So, even though you might have Ishmael and Edom, raising up and feeling like they have independence, ain't nobody free on this planet if you ain't rocking with the UN or you not rocking with... That's kind of like what this last war was about with Russia, because who the people Russia was with the bomb? Ukraine. That's what it was. Ukraine this time.
Ukraine.
Yeah, the Ukraine, because the Ukraine was interested in getting in the United Nations, and they like, nah, y'all sitting on our borders. Really, y'all Russia. You know what I'm saying? Like y'all and or the Soviet Union really is what it is. But it's like, nah, this ain't finna go down like that. We trying to bring y'all back home. You know what I'm saying? Like really. After the Soviet Union, we let y'all keep y'all land like that. We could have just did it another way. We the same people. So, but the point is, that's like them your powers. It's like NATO or United Nations, wherever you want, Europe and America, and then it's Russia and China, and everybody else, like North Korea, they ally with Russia and China. South Korea, they ally with us. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just like everybody else. They gotta ally with some Gentile, otherwise they have no power. They have no say in their own home. And we've seen that throughout Africa over the last 100 years or so. Like that whole continent was somebody else's. That definitely wasn't. Hey, it definitely wasn't the Africans. And hey, we probably don't even call it what they called it. So hopefully that kind of helped clear it up a little bit.
Oh, yeah, it did. Thank you. I appreciate it. As always.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Let me check this YouTube one more again. See if we got any more questions or comments, and then I'm going to come back to... Then I'll come back to the phone line. We have to unpause it. So, hopefully, you got somebody to the phone line. Okay, thanks. Okay, good. All right, so do we have more questions or comments on the phone line?
I do.
How you doing, bro? I should have just gave you your own private invitation. I figured you was gonna be in there somewhere. How you doing today, man?
All right.
All right, what you got for me?
I think it's gonna be a rapture.
I'm sorry? I didn't hear you.
I think it's going to be a rapture.
A rapture? Is there going to be one?
Right.
What is a rapture?
Well, I've been hearing people say God will rapture people before the actual day or something like that.
Okay. You say they're gonna rapture people before a particular day, right?
Yeah, well, I've been hearing preachers say that, telling the congregation that I'll see you in the rapture and all that stuff.
Right. Okay. So I got Encyclopedia Britannica in my hand. I'm gonna see if I can see what rapture is here. See if it's gonna tell me. I don't know. Sometimes they tell you in here, sometimes they don't. And then we're gonna look at like Matthew 24, and we'll look at Thessalonians. That's where they get that from. The Thessalonians. Man, rapture. Why don't I see rapture in here? Am I spelling it right? How do you spell rapture? R-A-P-T?
Yeah, U-R-E.
Oh.
That's what I thought.
That's because I ain't there yet. R-A-P, rapture. Raptures of the deep. Oh. Not in this one. All right. Let's go to Matthew 24, though. We're going to see if I can find him. I know one of these books probably got a rapture in it. Anyway, I wanted to look up rapture so I could give you what they tell you a rapture is.
Look it up online.
I'll look it up online, man. All these books in this house, I gotta look it up online, huh? All right, let's see. I'm gonna look and see what online say a rapture is.
You think it's in one of them dictionaries?
Oh, it's definitely in one of them. I'm just not gonna go through all of them. What is a rapture, or what is the rapture? All right, so let's see. What is the rapture? All right, I don't want the movie. A rapture. Nope. Okay. So here's what Wikipedia says. See, Britannica did say. Let's see what Britannica says. We always look at Wikipedia. Let's see what Britannica says. The rapture in Christianity. The eschatological concern with last things and end times. Okay. Belief that both living and dead believers will ascend into heaven to meet Jesus Christ at the second coming. So, before we keep going with that, let's take that part right there and let's show that they lying. So, let's go, before you go there, son, let's go to John chapter 3, I think. I think we're going to go to John chapter 3 and like maybe verse 18. I don't know. I might be wrong. I got to get there, though. I'll tell you in a minute. Not 18. Let me see. And no man. Oh, 3 and 13. John 3 and 13. Read that.
And no man have ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man which is in heaven.
The rapture in Christianity believe that both living and dead believers will ascend into heaven to meet Jesus Christ at the second coming. So far, it's wrong. The belief in the rapture emerged from the anticipation that Jesus will return to redeem all members of the church. The term rapture, however, appears nowhere in the New Testament. In his first letter to the Thessalonians, the Apostle Paul wrote that the Lord will come down from heaven and that the trumpet will precede the rise of the dead in Christ. So let's go to Thessalonians. Let's go to 2 Thessalonians chapter 4 and 16. This is where they get it from. So we're going to read what it says. 2 Thessalonians chapter 4. 1 Thessalonians, I'm sorry. Chapter 4 and start at verse 13. When you get there, go ahead.
But I will not have you to be ignorant, brethren, concerning them which are asleep, that ye sorrow not, even as others which have no hope.
Right, so we're talking about dead people here that done died before us. He's like, I don't want you to be ignorant. They just sleep. Go ahead.
For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so them also which sleep in Jesus will God bring with him. For this we say unto you, by the word of the Lord, that we which are alive and remaineth unto the coming of the Lord shall not prevent them which are asleep.
Go ahead.
For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven.
So he's saying the Lord going to leave heaven. When you descend somewhere, that means you coming down, because he ain't going to go. Heaven is above us in this case. So he's saying that the Lord is going to descend from heaven. Go ahead.
With a shout.
Yeah.
With the voice of the archangel.
Right.
And with the trump of God.
Right.
And the dead in Christ shall rise first.
Uh-huh.
Then we which are alive and remaineth shall be caught up together with them in the clouds, to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord.
All right, so now we're going to be in the clouds with the Lord. Let's see how long we're going to be there. Because I said we're going to be forever with the Lord, but we got to see how long we're going to be, because right now we just in the clouds. So let's go to Psalm. We'll go to Psalm and then Zechariah, then we'll go to Matthew, I think. Let's go to Psalm and find out where we're going to be. Psalm chapter 149, Psalms 149. Whew. Man, I'm getting sick. And let's pick it up at verse 4.
For the Lord taketh pleasure in his people. He will beautify the meek with salvation. Let the saints be joyful in glory. Let them sing aloud upon their beds.
So he said he going to beautify the meek with salvation. You're going to get beautified with salvation when the Lord come back. But keep reading.
Let the high praises of God be in their mouth, and a two-edged sword in their hand, to execute vengeance upon the heathen.
So them people that was dead, they're going to resurrect. They're going to execute vengeance upon the heathens. That's what's next. Punishment upon the people. They're going to bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron. Verse 9.
To execute upon them the judgment written, this honor have all his saints, praise ye the Lord.
Right, so this is going to happen after the Lord come back. Now let's go to Zechariah chapter 14. We're going to see where the Lord going to be. We're going to be, he said he going to have the saints with you. They're going to have a two-edged sword in their mouth to execute vengeance on the earth. Zechariah 14. Not get raptured up into heaven. Zechariah chapter 14. And pick it up in verse 3.
Then shall the Lord go forth.
No, pick it up in verse 1.
Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, and thy spoil shall be divided in the midst of thee. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then shall the Lord go forth, and fight against those nations, as when he fought in the day of battle. And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives.
Right, so like we say nobody's gone up to heaven. We seen that when the Lord come back, that the saints gonna be fighting with him. But we seen his feet stand at the Mount of Olives. Now I'm gonna go back to this, read this thing about the rapture. Turn to Matthew 24. So I'm gonna go back to this rapture. It says, in the New Testament, in the first letter to the Thessalonians, the Apostle Paul wrote that the Lord will come down from heaven and that a trumpet call will precede the rise of the dead in Christ. But now we just read that they're going to rise, the dead going to rise in Christ. Psalms say he going to beautify those with salvation, to beautify the meek with salvation. Zechariah say that the Lord going to come back and step foot on Mount Zion, not rapture off to heaven. Then it says, therefore, we who are still alive and are left will be caught up. In Latin, rapio, the standard translation of Paul's original coin in Greek. So when it says caught up, that's where the word rapture comes from. Now, but the idea, that's not where the idea comes from. That's where the word, they use that word, that's where it comes from. But the idea comes from somewhere else. I'm going to see if they're going to have it in here. It says, together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, mentioning Jesus' return to earth. Okay, so I'm trying to see if they're going to, all right, let's see. Belief in the rapture is often connected with the belief in the literal coming of the millennium, 1,000-year rule of Jesus Christ, after his return, as mentioned in chapter 20, the Revelation of John. So this also tell you it's different types of rapture theories. You got a pre-tribulation, you got a post-tribulation, all these different theories on it. I was trying to see if they could tell you where it started. I mean, I know where it started. I just want to see if we could read it. Okay. Another historical event whose idea may have had some influence on the later evolution of the idea was the founding of the Massachusetts Bay Colony by the Puritans, seeking to build a city upon a hill. In anticipation of the second coming, the evangelistical fervor of the Great Awakening in the early 18th century and the Second Great Awakening, late 18th century to 18th in the United States, widely prompted ideas about the millennial and about a new dispensation and about the imminence of Christ's return. The most famous of such thinkers was William Miller. So William Miller is who is credited with starting the Advent movement, which is where the rapture came from. William Miller, whose prediction that the second coming world occurred in 1843, inspired the subsequent formation of the Advent churches. So, long story short, this dude was like a preacher, and he preached a sermon like 3 years in a row, like at a revival, and was saying that the Lord was coming back. And since he ain't never come back, then he was like, well, the Lord can come back anytime, and he gonna rapture us off. That's kind of where that came from. So, and it started with William Miller. That's where the rapture started. Now, let's go to Matthew 24. We're going to see if we got any rapture at the coming of the Lord. Matthew chapter 24. And pick it up at verse 3.
And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming, and the end of the world?
That's right. That's what we're about to talk about. The sign of the Lord is coming and the end of the world. Now, we're not going to read all of this, but read verse 4.
And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many.
Yeah.
And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet.
What else?
For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, and pestilence, and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, and the love of many shall wax cold.
Verse 15.
When ye therefore shall see the abomination and desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place.
So this is the Antichrist. Go ahead.
Whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains.
So when the Antichrist goes stand in Jerusalem, if you in Judea, you need to get out the heck out of Dodge. Go ahead.
Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house.
Yes.
Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes.
He don't tell you why. Go ahead.
And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day.
Yeah.
For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be.
Okay, so now the rapture is supposed to protect you from the great tribulation, but we're not seeing anybody leaving prior to the great tribulation. We saw the abomination of desolation stand in the holy place. That's when the Antichrist goes over to Jerusalem, professes himself to be God. But then it says, verse 21, For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world, to this time no, nor ever shall be. Go ahead.
And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake those days shall be shortened.
Go ahead.
Then if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that, if it were possible, they should deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you before.
Skip down to 29.
Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they should see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. He shall send his angels with the great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heaven to the other.
So now the only time we seen anybody getting gathered was after this great tribulation when the Lord was coming back. That's not a rapture. That's not what the theory of the rapture is even about. So, in all honesty, the rapture is a lie. It doesn't exist. And if we want to say anything is the rapture, it comes from when he said that people was going to get caught up. Yeah, people going to get caught up, but the Lord not going to lead them in the clouds, and the Lord not taking nobody up into heaven. The Lord coming back, like it say in the Lord's Prayer, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. And when the Lord bring his kingdom come, his will be done in earth as it is in heaven, then the saints that resurrected, they going to rule on earth. Ain't nobody going up to heaven. Ain't nobody ever been up to heaven except the man that came from heaven. So hopefully that helped clear it up a little bit. And long story short, ain't no rapture.
So where did they get that from in
They got it from William Miller in the 1800s. He had a couple of revivals, and the Lord. He was saying the Lord could come back at any time, and he didn't. So after that, they start saying, well, the Lord could come back at any time, and that's where it started.
Yeah, because I was myself, I was raised up in a Sunday church, and that's all I've been hearing, preachers moaning and and I got they hawking, the rapture and all that. We were caught up in the rapture, and that's, I mean, but I'm glad you straightened it out,
That's funny too. You say caught up in the rapture when that's like saying caught up in the caught up, because that's what rapture means, to be caught up. So it's just kind of funny that we done took a word, caught up, and went and took it to his Latin or Greek or whatever, called it rapture, and made it a whole event that never takes place. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
No, you said that. And that was Matthew. What was it?
Matthew chapter 24.
Matthew chapter 24. Okay. Okay. Read the whole thing.
Yeah, there's no rapture in there. That's the whole event of the Lord coming back. But we don't see a rapture. We just see the Lord right after the tribulation. He coming back. And every eye gonna see. That's throughout the book.
Right.
The Lord don't need to do no secret rapture. He ain't never did no secret stuff before. Why he doing secret stuff now?
That's right.
Yep.
You know what? Now I got one more question if I got time.
Go ahead.
Another thing, well, I know some people on YouTube, I know some of them just be shooting off at the mouth, but, they, be like, there's one preacher on there that said, about talking about the Sabbath keepers, and he was like, the Sabbath, the Christians, the people nowadays, they don't have to keep the Sabbath because they said that's why you can't find it. Jesus didn't put no penalty on the Sabbath for in the New said he left it all in the Old Testament. He didn't put no penalty on nothing about the Sabbath in the New Testament. Said that's why. He said he mentioned all of it, but the Sabbath to keep in the New Testament. But I know they was wrong, but I know it all.
You know what's crazy about that? What's crazy about what you're saying in the Bible? You see a couple of deaths for breaking the commandments. So the deaths you see for breaking the commandments, let's see. We see Ananias and Sapphira. They lied. So they got killed on the spot. Let me see. Huh?
Picking up sticks?
Well, I was going to get there. What else, though? What other? Let me see. David said that whoever committed that adultery should die. Like, that didn't happen, but that was the punishment for it. Let me see. Can you think of some more sins?
On the Sabbath?
Boy, leave that one alone. Can you think of some more sins that you get punished for in the Bible? That we see people that we talk about it or something? The point I'm getting at, it ain't a whole lot of commandments in the Bible where you see people break a law and then they just like get killed. But you see that for the Sabbath. Like, how this dude gonna look at the resurrection, right? We at Judgment Day. And he done got killed for breaking the Sabbath, picking up sticks. But then the Lord told him, well, if you would have been born a couple thousand years later, you could have lived through all that. Because I stopped doing that. Like, that's not true. Let's look at something what the Lord say. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 13. Like, that just don't make sense in judgment. How you gonna judge one group of people? You got the same heaven you putting them in. You gonna judge one group of people and say, if y'all don't keep the Sabbath, you gonna perish. But then you got another group of people and you like, oh, y'all ain't got to do that no more. That ain't righteous judgment. That's unrighteous judgment. So in Hebrews chapter, let's see, 13, I think, verse 8. Hebrews 13:8. Read that.
Jesus Christ the same yesterday, today, and forever.
Man. Now, let's go to John chapter 1. John chapter 1. John chapter 1 and read verse 17.
For the law was given by Moses.
So the law was given by Moses. Go ahead.
But grace and truth came by Jesus Christ.
Right. So he say, but like he didn't say, but another law came by Jesus Christ. He just said grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. So Jesus brought grace because he died for us. And he brought the truth though. Now, let's look at one more scripture. Matthew chapter 5. Matthew 5. And we're going to look at 17 through 19. Matthew 5 or 17 through 19. When you get there, go ahead.
Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven.
And then Jesus started breaking down the commandments. Watch. Go to read verse 20. No, read verse 21.
Ye have heard that it was said by them of old time.
You heard where? Go ahead.
Thou shalt not kill.
You heard it in the Ten Commandments. Go ahead.
And whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment.
Go ahead. So he about to do away with this one. Let's see.
But I say unto you, that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment.
Wait a minute. He didn't just do away with thou shalt not kill. Let's see if he did away with thou shalt not commit adultery. Verse 27.
Ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you, that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her, have committed adultery with her already in his heart.
Oh, okay. So he made that one worse too, didn't he? He'd say, you can't even look at the woman. Nah, what you shouldn't have been anyway. But regardless. Verse 31. Let's see if he's going to do away with this law. Go ahead.
It have been said, whosoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a writing of divorcement. But I say unto you, that whosoever shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, cause her to commit adultery. And whosoever shall marry her that is divorced, committeth adultery.
So he ain't doing away with laws. He said, hey, y'all don't need to be getting divorced, period. Verse 33. Let's see if he's going to do away with this law.
Again, ye have heard that it have been said by them of old time, thou shalt not forswear thyself, but thou shalt perform unto the Lord thine oath. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is God's throne, neither by the earth, for it is his footstool.
Let's get down to 38. I'm just trying to see when he doing away with some commandments. Verse 38.
Ye have heard that it have been said, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you, that ye resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also.
Now, when you go back there and look at that eye for eye and tooth for tooth, you will see that it's just not that's just not randomly written in there too, by the way. Like it's a whole bit more to it. But verse 43.
Ye have heard that it have been said, thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy.
Yeah.
But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you.
So the point in us doing all that is to show, like, Jesus wasn't coming to do away with the law or the commandments. After he made that statement, he went and addressed the commandments and just showed how you supposed to keep them. So, and it's the commandments that you're getting out of Leviticus, the same ones out of Exodus, not some new commandments. He didn't bring us no new commandments. Look at 1 John real quick. 1 John. He didn't bring us no new commandment. Matter of fact, yeah, let me see. Maybe not 1 John, maybe 3 John or 2 John. Let me see. 2 John, pick it up at verse 5. 2 John 5 and 6.
And now I beseech thee, lady, not as thou I wrote a new commandment unto thee, but that which we had from the beginning, that we love one another.
Right. So he's like, man, these ain't no new commandments. They the ones we had from the beginning, that we love one another. Go ahead.
And this is love, that we walk after his commandments. This is the commandment, that as ye have heard from the beginning, ye should walk in it.
Right. So this is love, that we walk after his commandment, and this is the commandment that you heard from the beginning. So that like I don't know, these folk be trying to say the Lord did away with the Sabbath day, but we just read in Matthew 24 when he said, "Pray that your flight don't be on the Sabbath." Like, people just be lying on the book, and they doing it to this day. So hopefully that helped kind of clear it up a little bit and see a little more.
And one more thing, but what is, I tell people, the Sabbath is part of the Ten Commandments, right? I tell people, they say, well, he did away with the Sabbath, but I said, well, now, actually, you believe in the Ten Commandments? And they said, yeah. I asked them, I said, well, the Sabbath is one of them. I said, if he did away with it, what did he replace it with for him to have 10? Ten Commandments, what he replaced the Sabbath with. They can't see nothing,
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it too. That's definitely a good way of looking at it.
Right, they can't find what he replaced it with nothing. It's still on,
Yes, sir.
Right, they can't find what he replaced it.
Mm-hmm.
Be quiet, that's my
Nah, bro, I think we at the end of it now. I don't see nothing online. Do we got any more questions on the phone line? Okay, well, I guess on that note, we're going to go ahead and close it out. I appreciate everybody's participation this evening. I hope you guys learned something. If you got any other questions or comments, you can meet up with us on the Sabbath day at our Bible study classes, as well as we are online. And we also offer the same service that we provide every Wednesday on Saturday throughout the nation. We provide question and answer, definitely in Atlanta, and in Philadelphia, and in Gary, and in Los Angeles, and Toronto, and New York, and we worldwide. So, yeah, so if you got any more questions, man, you can feel free to present them during the course of the week, and we'll get to them. I hope y'all got some understanding. I'm sorry?
Y'all do the same thing on Sunday?
Nah, just on Saturday. Yeah.
That's what I'm in.
Yes, sir. It's a question and answer going on just like this on the Sabbath day. Sometime around, probably starting at about 4, 5, 6 o'clock. Just depending where you talking. And you can get question and answer on the Sabbath day. I would say 4 o'clock Eastern time till about 10 o'clock Eastern time. Maybe a little later than that, just depending on when Cali shut it down. Because, again, it's going on in Georgia. It's going on in Atlanta. It's going on in Florida. It's going on in D.C., New York, Philly, Gary. I can't say for Indianapolis and Cincinnati like that. Definitely Atlanta. Most of the time, Houston and Dallas. Little Rock should be doing live Q&A. Definitely L.A. I don't see Vegas. I ain't never seen they do. Vegas do live Q&A?
I don't know.
I'm sure they do. So yeah, pretty much.
I don't know if they do a Q&A, but they are online.
Mm-hmm.
Now the LA their Q&A starts at 7 o'clock.
Okay, yeah.
Pacific time.
Got you.
Central time.
Central time.
It's 5 Pacific time.
Okay, got you. And then if it's 5 Pacific, then it's like 7 to 8 out here. So yeah, so the point is you can get your questions asked also on the Sabbath day at somebody's question and answer at Israel, the Church of Jesus. So
I got the same number.
Oh, now that part. You know what? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if you dial this number.
No, you don't. You have to ask them online.
Yeah, I just thought about that. Yeah, I just thought about that.
Brother John, they're on YouTube. So, and you watch YouTube quite a bit. So, you can catch them on YouTube on the Sabbath.
Oh, okay. But I want to ask him
Well, what you can do is,
But
with,
you have
I'll tell you,
chat.
I'll tell you, what you can do is, you can you can ask to, like, when you watching on YouTube, you can ask if you can
Right.
if you can get somebody number to call. Like if I'm doing it in Philly, you can call me right when I'm doing it, and you know what I mean. I would just have my number posted, or somebody would, you know what I mean. So the long story short is, you can get your question answered on the Sabbath day too, all day long. So yeah,
You know, I think Brother Brian, they have the number going across the screen for their Q&A too. I think, I'm not sure. I can't remember.
yeah, I'm gonna check
But
with
I
that.
know their Q&A is the last Q&A of the day,
Yeah.
as far as the Sabbath that I know of.
They should get the number though, because they gonna always be the last one. They should just have the number running for them. But I'm gonna check with that and see, because I just
It's running across the screen. If I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to think of it in my head because I watch it every Sabbath.
okay.
And if I'm not mistaken, they have it running across the screen.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna check. I'm gonna check and see what. I'm gonna check period, because I didn't even think about that until you said it, and it was a time when we did where you could call, but I don't know if we ever had a time where you can call after the Sabbath. But like I say, like the sister said, it's definitely on YouTube. You can definitely put your questions on YouTube, but you can reach somebody too though, because I mean, all you got to do is put forth a little effort if you need to. So with that being said, though, we're gonna go ahead and Lord's prayer and close it on out. I'm gonna start.
Our Father which art in heaven,
Our Father which art in heaven,
Our Father which art in
hallowed be
heaven,
thy name.
hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come,
Thy kingdom come.
Thy kingdom come.
thy will be done in earth,
Thy will be done in earth
Thy will be done in earth
as it is in heaven.
as it is in heaven.
as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread,
Give us this day our daily
Give us
bread,
this day our daily bread,
and forgive us our debts,
and forgive us our
and
debts,
forgive us our debt,
as we forgive our debtors.
as we forgive our
as we
debtors.
forgive our debtors.
And lead us not into temptation,
And lead us
And lead
not
us not
into
into
temptation,
temptation,
but deliver us from evil.
but
but
deliver us from evil.
For thine is the kingdom,
For thine is the kingdom,
and the power,
and the power,
and the power,
and the glory,
and the glory,
and the glory,
forever.
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 In Jesus' name we pray.
In Jesus' name we
In
pray.
Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
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 Peace to everybody, man. Enjoy the rest of y'all week, and blessings.
You too as well.
Thank you.
Thanks for helping me out.
Man, it's my pleasure.